Hello, I'm Justine Willis-Toms. Welcome to the New Dimensions Cafe. Today I'm hosting Dr. Eric Maisel, a creativity coach and author of more than 50 books, including Brave New Mind, The Art of Serene Readiness, and Night Brilliance, The Sleep Thinker's Guide to Powerful Problem Solving. I'm speaking with Dr. Maisel at his home by remote connection. Welcome, Eric, to the New Dimensions Cafe.
Thank you for having me, Justine.
Well, in these turbulent times, many of us are tempted to just pull the covers up over our heads, and it's a way that we might cope with stress, uncertainty, and anxiety. And however, you propose a different way to support our own well-being and that of also our communities, and its serene readiness. So what do you mean by serene readiness, and how can we approach it and help us keep ourselves in the game?
Yeah, let's start from where you were starting, and that is our times, where we are. It isn't clear to me that our brain is actually equal to these times. So whatever it is we're talking about, can't be a solution to the problem, because there may not be a solution. Our brains may be overtaxed, and so there may be inevitable anxiety, despair. Some of these things may be inevitable, and that may take a lot of our wisdom and maturity to accept. But we can still do better. We can still find some emotional balance. We can still live our life purposes. We can still do the things that are important to us more frequently rather than less frequently, and with more serenity rather than with less serenity. So the idea of serene readiness is not a cure or a perfect answer to anything. It's a habit and a tactic and a way of thinking about how to be. And obviously it comes with two parts. One is serenity. And the idea behind serenity, the obvious idea behind serenity, is that we want to be calmer than we typically are, but not just in our calmness practices, not just when we're doing our sitting meditation or our breathing exercises, but when we're actually feeling anxious. So one of the ideas that I want to communicate is the idea of portable, small anxiety management techniques that actually work in the moment to reduce your experience of anxiety. There are many of them. Brave New Mind covers them, Redesign Your Mind covers them, Mastering Creative Anxiety. That is, I've described them in many places. For our conversation, let me just say that again, that the serenity comes from actually owning a certain number of small practices, whether those are breathing practices or cognitive practices or somatic practices. Sometimes what reduces anxiety is getting up and walking around, something that simple. That's what we do if many people do when you're flying and you're feeling anxious and you're feeling trapped in that seat, which is technically called inhibited flight. You feel like you're trapped. Getting up and walking around reduces your experience of anxiety. That's simple, but it's doable, it's actionable. So the serenity part is trying to identify and thinking about those small, actionable habits that we can acquire that actually make us more serene.
Many of our listeners, I know, have a mindfulness meditation practice.
Exactly.
But what you're talking about, and that's a good thing to do, I think. It's really a fine practice. But it might not be so readily available when a moment of stress or anxiety attacks us.
Yes, and it may not be available when it's most important that it be available. Um, I work with creative performing artists. Let's just take the case of a writer who's sent a query letter to a query email nowadays to a literary agent, and that literary agent out of the blue calls you. There's nothing more nerve-wracking to a writer than getting that kind of call and trying to remember what your book's about and what your name is and anything, because this is so important. It's such a rare occurrence that it's so important to you that we go blank. We have one of those anxiety reactions, dissociation or one of them. Now, if one could have not just tactics, but a habit of serenity such that you're not going to get worked up in that moment. You're going to stay present. You're going to remember your name. You're going to remember the title of your book. More than that, you're going to be compelling and sell yourself to that agent in that moment. If you can do all of that, that's the goal of this serene readiness idea. And now we can get to the readiness part, just flows right naturally. That writer should be ready for that call. Even if it's only a 1 in a million occurrence, that writer should be able to remember what her book's about, be able to have her elevator pitch, etc. There are natural readinesses for each of our identities. There's natural, if you're a parent, the natural readiness is to know if your kid's not is or isn't playing in the street. There are many things we do with our different readinesses and our different identities, and each identity calls for its own readiness. And this takes thinking. It takes a kind of measured self-awareness practice to say, well, to be ready for this, I need to know ABC. To be ready for my mean Uncle John at Thanksgiving, I need to do this. I need to not broach this subject at all, etc. There are lots of different readinesses for different circumstances. We're too busy, we're too rushing along to spend time identifying these readinesses and actually getting ready.
I'm throwing this out and it may seem out of the blue, but I think the power of imagination to hold what is possible is very important, and it can help us with the fears and anxieties that we have today that we're coping with today.
That's a big point, and it's really interesting to me. We are caused and forced to lose our imagination over time. It happens at the family table, it happens in school. We're supposed to know facts for the tests and draw inside the lines. And kids are imaginative at 3, 4, 5, 6. By 8, 9, or 10, they want to know what's on the test, and they want to know. We lose our imagination. And as I say, I work with creative performing artists. I've been doing it for 30, 40 years. They have lost a lot of their imaginative faculties. They've lost that thing that's called connecting remote associates. That's like taking a salmon over here and a skyscraper over there and putting them together and making a salmon-shaped skyscraper. You say that to a kid, they'll make a salmon-shaped skyscraper. Say it to an adult, they go, I don't know how to do that. I don't know what that's supposed to look like. Why are you asking me that? So you said a big thing there about our imaginative faculties are wonderful, and we tend to have lost them. And so my metaphor for this is walking around the lake. I invite clients all the time as kind of a recovery of imagination process to just blue sky walk around the lake. We need that. It's not something we're going to pencil in. That sounds like I don't have time for that. But gosh knows we need to make time for our imagination.
You mentioned something earlier about our uh, personal purposes, and you used the plural. It wasn't like our one purpose in life. You really emphasize that we have multiple purposes.
I do. I think we've been stuck with the metaphor of the purpose of life, that life has a purpose. I don't believe that's either useful or true. I think it's much more useful and true to understand that we choose our life purposes. We get to decide what's important to us. Most people don't have beside their computer or their phone a list of their life purposes to turn to help them orient towards what's important to them. I think that would be wonderful if they did. And if they check in once a day with your life purposes. It can be disappointing that you didn't get to any of them, that you only did tasks all day long, or just mop the floor or something. It would be disappointing, but still, it's good to know what our life purposes are and to figure out our ways of getting them on our daily to-do list so we're actually living our life purposes.
Can you give an example for us, something concrete that we can relate to that helps us understand?
Sure, I think a very typical menu of life purposes or important things for a person might be their creative life, activism, service, parenting, relationships. Those 6 quickly come to mind. There are so many kinds of possible life purposes. Lifelong learning, education, curiosity. Some sound like values, some sound like activities. But it's for us to know what's important to us, said however we want to say it. I do believe we can capture all of those in a single life purpose statement. Mine is do the next right thing. I think it's useful to both have the menu of life purposes and also to try to encapsulate them in an easy to remember, easy to use phrase. Maybe that clarifies a little bit.
When you say that to know what is important to us, that takes some time. I mean, we rush through our lives. We're just filled with all sorts of busyness and distractions.
Yeah, obligations. Yep.
We go down rabbit holes of social media and all other distractions. So it is to know what is important to us, taking that time.
It's living a proud and honorable life, a self-declared intentional life. That's what we're talking about, not noticing that life is just going by and not allowing ourselves to not take full responsibility. This is the existential point of view, of course. This is what existentialists of the last 100 years have been saying, that we have to take personal responsibility for our meaning making and our life purpose choices. And I'm just echoing that. We do need to take personal responsibility, which does mean stopping and sitting down, like in the 12-step program, taking a fearless moral inventory. It's that kind of work. It's like saying, my life in one way or another is not the way I want it to be. Too much is too, I'm bombarded by too much is not in my control. Things aren't working, therefore, things aren't working, let me settle down and figure out how to make them work better.
Oftentimes, life is going by at warp speed, and we think we have to keep up with that. And so you're saying slow it down and take some time.
That's right, or at least slow down a portion of the day. Let's say that we have to rush from, I don't know what, 8 to 12 or something. We can't stop our obligations. It's one day job task after another. So be it. But we have to be able to carve out not just some time, but a reasonable amount of time to get back in touch with ourselves every day, to understand what's important on that, and to at least connect with one of our life purposes that day, whether it's having a conversation with our mate or working on our symphony or whatever one thing might be, to not spend a whole day never touching one of those life purposes. Too many of our days are like that. We're not touching even one of our life purposes.
Often we relate to our cognitive mind, which is really, really good at strategizing. But there's a moment when it might really benefit us if we kind of deepen that relationship to our heart mind as well, because that has also some information and some support for us. So, do you have anything to say about the connection between the cognitive mind and the heart mind?
Nothing precisely, except what comes to mind is when I was working as an intern early in psychotherapy life, way back when, working at an internship at a sort of a new age counseling center. I really had no contact with meditation or mindfulness or any of those practices. I was coming out of a different world, came into that world, and I discovered that I could create a tiny mindfulness meditation practice for between clients, just to leave one client behind and get ready for the next client, that kind of space needed. And I think all I'm meaning to say is that it can be a very small thing that connects us with our heart. It's not yet another big enterprise. I think we can, to use sort of visual language, I think we can drop down there very quickly with just a little bit of breathing and a little bit of intentionality to go there.
We've lived so much in our heads.
Mhm.
We see with our eyes are part of our heads. And just to remember there's this whole other part of us below our heads, underneath our chins, and part of that our heart, our gut, our feet on the ground, and we forget
Yep,
about that.
yep. I'm just agreeing.
So going back to serene readiness, there's some process to that, and it's ongoing.
It is ongoing. It's like the difference between knowing to dispute negative talk and finally not having any negative talk. We may have to do the first for a long time. The three-step process that cognitive therapists teach is to hear what you're saying, dispute those utterances that don't serve you, and then substitute more affirmative language. We may have to do that a lot, keep our cognitive notebook or keep our negative self-talk notebook for a long time before suddenly we notice one day, well, that thought didn't even bother to come up because it knew I was going to dispute it. That's a lovely moment, but that can take a long time, and all of the work leading up to that is honorable, not fun, but honorable. It's something we're doing for the sake of getting somewhere we want to go, which is to be more ready, more present, more calmer, all of those things. We know what we're trying to get. It's not unlike the first days of playing the guitar or something, or some other impossible task. How horrible. I think I tried the violin for like 2 days and could not tolerate how that. But everybody knows you have to tolerate that beginning stuff to get somewhere, whether it's 10,000 steps or 15,000 minutes or whatever it is. It takes a lot. It takes a lot of energy. Takes a lot of our chi, a lot of our life energy to devote to that, which is a cost. It's a cost, but it's the right cost because we then feel proud of our efforts.
Wonderful, wonderful. So it's hang in there with commitment.
And come back. To use 12-step language, if you slip, you start again.
I just want to thank you so much, Eric, for being with us on the New Dimensions Cafe today.
Thank you for having me.
I've been speaking with Dr. Eric Maisel, a creativity coach and author of more than 50 books, including Brave New Mind, The Art of Serene Readiness, and Night Brilliance, The Sleep Thinker's Guide to Powerful Problem Solving. And to learn more about the work of Eric Maisel, go to ericmaisel.com. And he spells his name Ericmaisel, ericmaisel.com. Or you can get there through the New Dimensions website, newdimensions.org, where you'll find more than 2,000 programs in our archive. I'm Justine Willis-Toms. I want to thank you for joining us at the New Dimensions Cafe, and I invite you, please do join us again.